Hey, welcome back to another episode of Radio 22's Talk 22, show hosted by me, your boy Mizzle Jizzle. You're back yet again, bringing you the conversations that you want to talk about, and we bring it to you with nothing but the real. And we back yet again with a special nine. We're here with the 420 episode of Radio 22, special 422 episode. And today's episode, we talking about the topic of drugs, baby. The conversation, we've seen the situation popped off just recently with DMX passing away with an untimely death, unfortunately. And we've seen so many tragic situations happen like that. When we think about situations of Whitney Houston and her daughter, Michael Jackson, Prince, the list goes on. We losing just way too many of our superheroes at an early death due to drugs, and we're going to talk about it. I know a lot of you want to talk about the case that went on today and the jury that was found in Minnesota, and I swear we will touch on that, just not today. Today we're celebrating, and we're going to be talking about what's going on with the drug addiction cases here. So we're going to talk about that. I got my heavy hitters today to help me talk about this subject. So today's conversation, I'm gonna start off with this. What basically my co-host, the homie Bang out the Madison area. Can you say what's up to the people?
What's going on? I'm a co-host now.
Darn
many,
near.
many times I've been here. Much appreciated, man. I'm Bang. Just in case those that don't know, Bang, what's real is real. Appreciate y'all for having me yet again.
Appreciate that. But what you got going on these days, Bang? Let them know.
All right, so I'm still pushing the quarantine song. That's out on all platforms. Uh, Me and Rambunctious, we just dropped Written Rumble Series 1. That just dropped on YouTube a few days ago. So make sure y'all check that out, man. We had 8 MCs competing for a first place prize. It's just a verse battle. It's not head to head like a battle rap. It's whoever got the best lyrics, whoever's the best with the pen, took home that crown. So
Hottest
check that
16.
out. Yeah. And I got other singles coming out as well. So just stay in tune with me.
That's what's up. We appreciate you joining the show. Also on the line, we got the homie MP. MP, can you say what's up to the people and let them know what you got going on?
What's going on, everybody? I'm MP or Marcus Porter, which is easier for you to remember. Right now, I'm just working. I just dropped a couple singles. One is called "Sue for the Soul," that is everywhere. And another one is called "The Process," featuring Red the Bully and Suvi. And I'm also running the studio here at Oddly Arranged Media. So if you want to get some work in, hit me up on either Instagram or on Facebook. We right here at 1444 East Washington Ave.
In Madison. That's what's up. We appreciate you joining the program as well, MP.
No
Uh,
problem.
and then we got one of many's on the line. One of many. You let the people know what you got going on, bro. As you unmute your mic, and you got to get you to unmute your mic.
What's up? You got me? Can you hear me?
Yep, there you go.
I
We hear
hope it
you.
ain't static. All right, no. So appreciate you for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure. I represent a brand called Let's Work Local Lifestyle. We connect local artists with local businesses in the form of like hip hop and just influencers. What we got going on is a big collaboration coming up June 19th. It's a us thing. It's a bunch of like local black owned businesses, local black owned entrepreneurs coming together. Just create a template for gatherings of how to appreciate each other and control the narrative. So that's one of the biggest things we got going. But I operate so in the industry of music, fashion, and just media. I'm also operating out of 1444 East Washington. So holla at us.
That's what's up. Okay, and the last but not least, we got my homie Larry's on the line. Larry, can you let the people know what you've been working on and where they can find you?
mainly
Oh,
in the
yeah, I
Iowa
mean,
area. We're branching out, reaching out to the Wisconsin area, just like I told you in my recent conversation. I'm going to end up my company, J4BG Family Services, that provides mental health services in my current area, is going to end up partnering with Aaron Gabriel, who's doing a major initiative in Madison with regards to Black men's health. We're going to end up providing mental health or starting to initiate the conversations around Black mental health for Black men's mental health in particular. So I'm interested in that. This year is going to be an interesting year. I'm going to end up writing 2 books or finishing up my books. So I got 1 book coming out called Value-Based Parenting. That'll be finished in May. And then I have another book that's going to end up coming out called House of Cards. It's a relationship counseling book. That should come out sometime in the summer. So those are some things I'm working on. An area of interest that I'm going to end up doing some major research on later on this year is just trauma, particularly in the African American community. So that's as it relates to the initiative in Madison. I'm looking to really, I'll leave it at that. Yeah, so the little bit of stuff that's happening.
Sound like you got something to dive into. So I appreciate you joining the show as well.
Yeah,
you might have some knowledge on this subject as well. All right, so we're just gonna go right into it. I'm gonna start off with the homie MP. I want to ask, like I talked about, Whitney, Michael, Prince, DMX. Now, so many of these great artists that we talked about in the past. Why are so many musical greats been taken due to drug abuse? What's your thoughts on that?
Most of the time when we hear about a musician getting addicted to drugs is because someone gave it to them and they unknowingly took it or didn't know the side effects behind it. You can look back even to Motown days with a lot of those acts. Like just people were trying different drugs and they were just getting stuck or they were getting laced up. And I believe that it's just continues to carry over. That's what it is.
Okay. All right. So Bang, do you kind of agree on that? Why do we see so many of these musical greats? I mean, do you have to, is that part of the genius? Is that, that you have to be stuck on drugs or like what?
Well, yeah, I mean, what MP said, I mean, that's true. That's true as well. You know what I'm saying? That's what happened to X. He got slipped something that he didn't know, and he ended up just getting hooked from there. But I do think that a lot of artists, they use something to tap into that creative side. You know what I mean? So whether it's weed, alcohol, you know what I'm saying, or whatever, that they take, you know what I'm saying, just to get them in that mood, you know what I'm saying, so they can get in that zone, you know what I'm saying. And so I mean, I guess, once you get big, you know what I mean, there's probably a lot of pressure. You got way more money, you know what I'm saying, to afford whatever it is that you need to get in your zone. And you got that pressure to stay hot. Every year you got to stay hot. You got to sell these records. You got to stay in these people's face. You got to entertain. And you could probably get caught up in just trying to push out as much creative work as you can. And you might end up doing a little bit more than you normally do. You might end up indulging in other things and harder stuff, you know what I'm saying, just to to stay creative or even just to party. And then one thing leads to another, and you end up overdosing, doing it too much, and you end up getting addicted to it, thinking that it is what it is, it's just a normal thing, all the other people doing it as well. So those are some reasons I do believe that a lot of our greats, they just fall a victim to it. They don't see nothing wrong with it.
Okay. I'd like to get your thoughts on that one, Manny. Do you feel the same way? Do you feel like it's just part of the game?
In favor for the artist to be sober because now they in a state where they, understand what's going on. So I just feel like to want to be in them spaces is to know what you signing up for. So on a level outside of the industry, it's a real fight. And I would be one of the ones who want to refer people to the right resources if I can't help them. Right? So that's what I would say towards the situation. But as far as the industry, it's in the industry favor for the artist to be, not sober, not in their right mind, not in a business kit, not in a state where they making good judgmental decisions. It's like I'd rather you be intoxicated. I'd rather you not really want to read this contract. I'd rather you just want to be around pretty women, and cars and homes. It's like then they favor for that. So it's just making the decision to be a human being, man, other than a machine.
Okay. All right. Seem to lost LJ on the line. Bang, we're gonna go back to you.
Yeah, jump back in.
Okay, LJ back into the line.
Okay.
All right, LJ. When it comes to the drug addiction part to that, why do we see so many of these great artists fall into the drug addiction? We talked about the abuse, but why with the addiction side of it?
Yeah, I think drug addiction and drug abuse is sort of if you ask me, synonymous with one another. I spent about a year and a half doing the drug counseling, and I still do drug counseling, and with drug use and even recovery, and when you talk about relapse, when I did drug counseling, it used to be a hidden rhythm or hidden saying amongst us therapists that our door is a revolving door for the exact same people that leave our therapy or leave substance abuse counseling. And just think about that. When you talk about getting latched on to something, it is, with regards to whether it be drugs or alcohol, there's so many variables as to why people stay latched to those things. Substance use and mental health issues are, brother and sister, and you never know what's affecting what, with regards to whether drugs are affecting a decline in a person's mental health, or whether the person already had a decline in mental health in their own interpersonal lives and are using drugs to cope with it, or to create some sense of normalcy, or to escape, the reality of where they're mentally at. So, drug abuse and the drug addiction are, for me, when I look at it, one and the same. When you say somebody's abusing drugs, it's because if somebody's abusing drugs, it's more than likely because they have an addiction issue. I agree with some of the previous comments that there's usually a starting point. There's usually a point of innocence where somebody's exposed to something and they make a decision to, for most people, make a decision to get sort of wrapped in the culture of what's happening. Hip hop culture, hip hop culture and drugs, are brother and sister too, right? So you don't have hip hop without without some type of notion or some type of connection to drug use, right? Where you see somebody in the videos popping bottles, or you hear somebody in their lyrics talking about popping mollies, and I'm probably gonna butcher the language here, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's not for me, we shouldn't be surprised when we see people battling with these issues in the hip hop community, because we have not adequately addressed why we even bring it up in the hip hop community. It's marketed. It's marketed in the hip hop community. So why wouldn't there be an issue in the hip hop community? Anyway.
With that being said, I want to go back to you, LJ, Larry, and ask you the same question. I'm going to ask you a different question here.
Yep.
Does today's hip hop music praise drugs too much, along with what you just said?
You're gonna get varied opinions regarding that. I don't know whether I have a barometer on whether something's too much. I don't think that we've chastised enough the promotion of drug use in hip hop. You know, when you talk about hip hop overall, it's a money making machine. They're not just making money off of talking about drugs. They're making money talking about violence. You know, hip hop makes money off of, you know, sometimes glorifying the most vile parts of our community. From a standpoint of telling a story, I get that those things are in our communities. Those things have affected our communities, and therefore we put them in our lyrics. But the catch-22 to, you know, talking about our stories in our lyrics is that we inadvertently end up marketing what we say. We end up marketing and sometimes glorifying that story to young people who are just listening to, who just want to hear a good beat, and end up, you know, getting lured into accepting a culture of the storyline of drug use in our community through those lyrics. That's probably a sharp comment to the hip hop community, but it is. I'll leave that as an open critique, subject to be corrected.
Okay, I mean, we are on the line with 3 MCs on the line right now, so I want to hear from them. One of many. I want to ask you that same question. You know, we hear songs like, you know, what's that, Molly Percocets and all the different stuff that they talk about in different hip hop songs of today. Do you feel like does today's hip hop praise drug use too much? One of many.
Yeah. I want to take some time first before I answer. I would say from a multi major industry standpoint, yes, but no more than what Hollywood do, no more than what other industries do that, you know, have a hold on our culture. It's just more so like, to me, hip hop music is the highest form of art out of all art. That's my personal opinion. So the influence of an artist or a rapper would be more encouraging than a doctor, right? So I get why people would target the hip hop industry for having so much of an effect on it, but is this are people sharing their realities, or is this exaggerated? Like, where is it coming from? Like, you have to, you can't put a leash on expression if this is being expressed now in the form of promotion. Like, you should be doing it. Of course not, right? But it's like, is this a part of their reality and their lifestyle? Like, what are the solutions that can replace this form of expression? So I wouldn't blame hip hop, but I would just put more so of emphasis on the culture. It's like, this is what the culture is accepting of. So it's like maybe changing the narrative of what's the cool, what makes doing drugs cool. You know what I mean? Like, what makes versus what makes going to college cool, what makes starting a business cool. So it's like, we got to start with the narrative before we just point the finger at an issue. So we got here from somewhere. I don't have all the answers, but I wouldn't just completely blame hip hop. Hip hop is the reality of the black experience in America. So if we have issues with hip hop, in that sense, we just have an issue with what we going through here, because that's what hip hop expresses to me.
Right. I definitely agree with you with that. It's a expression of what's actually going on. You know, MP, I want to see your thoughts on that. You know, we look at MCs like the great rest in pieces. So Pimp C, who, you know, many times used to discuss things of, you know, sipping lean and whatnot. And we all know his tragic death from heart situations after that. But does hip hop kind of glorify drug use a little bit too much in today's music?
That's a tough question to really just be like, yeah, it does. Because we got to look at what drugs they're glorifying. Because some things are over the counter drugs, some things aren't over the counter, but it's also like Brian said, when he minute said, that is no different from what other genres do. Rock has the same message. Country has the same message. So it depends on what we're talking about. I don't know any artists that talk about doing cocaine, this, that, and the other. It's more so Percocet, Molly, weed, but it's like one of those things where it's like it's those drugs versus other drugs that they're talking about. So I feel like there's some type of it's some type of thing that we look at drugs as like, oh, it's pushed to the front. And like some people like Bang said that some artists use it to escape reality, talk about it, and some people just relate to it. So it's one of those things that's a relatable content thing as well. It's the, like they said, the Black experience. Like we have many sides to us. Like drugs is no different from any other culture's experience. We just get it posted more because it's what sells sometimes.
Right. Okay. Speaking on that term, I'm gonna ask you, Bang, I'll ask you a different question here. I want to know from you, does Black media, because we talked about Black media, he said not only just the hip hop music, but maybe like movies and TV shows and video games or whatnot. Does the Black media trigger drug use in Black communities, in your opinion?
I believe it does, and I agree with one of many. I think that it does. It definitely do it in a small way. Music, TV, and film. Uh, but I think that the biggest motivator is pretty much just life, and your experiences. I mean, I grew up listening to rap music. You know what I'm saying? I don't know anybody that smoked their first blunt because Snoop Dogg does it. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, your environment, you know what I'm saying, kind of dictates, what you're gonna become. A lot of times, how you're raised. Um, just different experiences. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you probably just want to party, probably just want to experiment. It could be peer pressure. I mean, all of those things to me is a bigger motivator than some rapper, what I'm saying, on the video, turning up and doing all these different types of things. You know what I'm saying? Like that's to me that's not gonna motivate me. You know what I'm saying? I drink. I'm a drinker. And I don't drink because, you know what I'm saying, rappers do it. You know what I'm saying? That's just something that I just decided that I wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? I'm in college just trying to turn up, you know what I'm saying, with everybody else. It has nothing to do with music. It had nothing to do with film, movies that I've seen. You know what I'm saying? It just had a lot to do with my life and where I was at that moment. You know what I'm saying? So does it influence some people? Yeah, maybe some people do want to be cool and they do want to fit in, or maybe they just relate to what a rapper is saying. But your life, your environment, your neighborhood, your experiences, to me, is what's gonna dictate, what you're gonna get into more so than listening to rap music.
Okay. All right. So I want to be clear on something. MP, I'm gonna go to you. When we talk about drugs, are we speaking about marijuana, tobacco, and alcohol? Do you consider those things drugs, or when you speak on drugs, what do you consider drugs?
I mean, marijuana is becoming legal, so I mean, it's kind of hard to be like it's illegal. I think drugs and addiction go hand in hand. So anything you use too much of can become a drug. So it doesn't necessarily have to be those substances, because you can be addicted to anything and it can be your drug. It can be the thing that releases that dopamine that you love, those good feelings. So
Okay. LJ, you are our expert when it comes to this. When we talk about drugs, do you also agree? I mean, are we speaking about marijuana, tobacco, and alcohol as well, or are we just speaking about harder substances?
You can be addicted to you could be addicted to yourself. They call that arrogance, right? Whatever, you know, you know, when I'm having conversations with people who have the things I try to do, idea that with the idea that we all got addictions. We all got things we're fighting over, whether we realize it or not. We all got things that we're just latched on to, that in order for us to pass our test in life, you want to call that, we have to overcome those things that we've sort of latched on to survive in our environment, whether it be our anger, whether it be our anxiety, whether it be depression, which are the major addictions from a mental health standpoint. You know, so, you know, but going to answer the question, though, you know, those are tobacco and all those things. Those are drugs. Those are things people end up getting addicted to. Those are things that, regardless of the harmful effects, whether the harmful physical effects or the harmful effects via interactions when you use it, you know, when you can't stop doing something, that's unhealthy for you, you know, that's when it becomes a problem. You know, and like the previous comment, anything can be a drug. Shoot, I've seen the most religious people become addicted to religion, you know, religion in the worst way, where they can't break away from judgmentalness.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you know, you can be addicted, you know, but just to normalize the experience, you can be addicted to anything. It can be a drug. Now, these things that when we talk about alcohol, or when we talk about marijuana, when we talk about tobacco, these things are, you know, to marijuana is in the last stages of the prohibition, right? When you talk about alcohol or tobacco, these other products, you know, these other products are now you know, so long as you're 18 or 21, you have unlimited access to these items, and marijuana is the last stage of that. And just because it's legal does not mean that it's not harmful for you. Alcohol is the most lethal of all three of them, yet it's the most accessible product out there. So, you know, that's one thing to keep in context, that just because it's okay to use, just because you can use it responsibly, you know, the way the system is designed, it's not designed for you to use it responsibly. It's designed for you to use it irresponsibly. That's how people make their money. So, you know, I always talk, when I talk with clients, and not to make a long story long there, I say, man, you know, if the doctor prescribed it, you know, if you get medicated use, I could justify the use of a lot of things. However, most people, when they drink alcohol, or when they smoke marijuana, or when they smoke tobacco, they really don't know how much they're overusing. And that's the issue. When you talk about addiction, and when you talk about the topics here, it winds down to, most people don't know that they're overusing when they're overusing, and they oftentimes overuse too much. I know I butchered that word there, but that is the operative word. We don't know when we overuse. And so when you overuse over and over again, you know what happens to your body? Your body adapts to it. It's called having a high tolerance. And addiction and high tolerance are like twin sisters or twin brothers. They're closely associated with one another. Because now you're in a situation where when your tolerance gets high, you're always chasing after that original high, no matter what it is, right? Whether you're smoking marijuana or alcohol, you're always trying to get a buzz. Well, if your tolerance is high, it means that sometimes you're taking things more than what your body can take physically. If that makes any sense.
It does. It does.
But people get addicted because they develop high tolerance. When you talk about these other lighter drugs, if you want to call them lighter drugs, the other drugs like cocaine and all those things can deliver instantaneous addiction, you know, based off a person trying to chase that high but never able to get that original high, right? But it is based off the same mechanisms with regards to tolerance. So anyway.
Okay. I think I see where you come from. One of many. I'm gonna come to you now. I want to ask, you know, I'm gonna get into the thick of it here. Why is it that opioid abuse is considered an illness, while America was willing to have a war on drugs against narcotics like crack cocaine back in the 80s?
is because opioids ain't really surrounded in like the communities where it's poverty going on and the access to it. So I would say from a standpoint of keeping the white image polished, um, that's the direct response I can give you. Outside of, it's not on their agenda to make that mainstream media. Is to cater that to the point where it's not a big thing. It happened. We're dealing with it. Other than sending 100 troops to monitor their neighborhoods and making sure the doctors is in line. It's like, no, these are the people who basically fund the communities, can sponsor campaigns. Like it's just not an overall corporate good look to shine light on the people that was affected, because they don't look like you and I can tell you that. And it's to that reason, it's just more like, when it's yours, you do what you want. They control the media outlets, they control the musical outlets, they control the movie world, they control. They got their hands on a lot of stuff. So, they once they give it to the media, the average consumer of today's media will take it as fact. It's like, well, I seen it on the news that this happened, so it's got to be fact. And it's like, well, good luck with that. You know what I mean? So it's just not in that industry to compare the war on drugs to the opioid pandemic or whatever you want to call it.
Okay. Bang. I want to get your word on that. Why is it that opioid prescribed drug abuse isn't considered, in the same criminality as they drove the war on drugs with the crack epidemic that happened in the 80s, in your opinion?
I think we all know. We all know because with the crack, cocaine, that was a black thing. And the media is gonna do whatever that they can to tear down the black name, the black image, tear it down and keep it down. Make sure every new generation know what's up with the black community, and this is how horrible they are, and all the negative shit that's going on in their community, trying to make us look bad. And that's just how it is. You know what I'm saying? It's their country, and this just how they running it. You know what I'm saying? So I ain't hating on or nothing like that, but that's just what it is. So when something strikes their community, and something strikes their image, of course they're gonna water it down a little bit. Of course they're gonna say, these people are sick, they just have an addiction. We need to help them out. We need to pray for them. You know what I'm saying? We need to give them some help. When all actuality, shit, I mean, everybody need help. Everybody that's addicted to something needs help. It doesn't matter what race, what I'm saying, it has affected mostly. Everybody needs help. If you are addicted to something, you most definitely need some help. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's the reason why. Black people, cocaine, horrible. Opioids, white community, watered down, they just need some help. That's just how the media is gonna take it.
Okay. MP, do you agree? I mean, do you feel like there's a difference between the prescribed opioids versus the street drugs of the 80s?
I don't want to sound repetitive.
So you agree is what you're saying?
Yeah, I agree. Like, yeah. I don't want to repeat everything my bros just said, but yeah, it's yeah. And I ain't got words. They said everything.
Okay.
Say no more.
Fair enough. So he agrees with it. All right. So if that's the case, so do you believe it's a situation that they parrot just to go against the black community? Is that what you're saying?
I feel like for what it was in the 80s, for what it is now, is that it's too, like, they're treating things two completely different ways, because like one said that they want to keep white America's image as clean as possible versus as to what we were back then. And like, it's like and it still continues to that day, even with just the petty drug crimes that are now hopefully being overturned more and more. It's just one of those things. Like, if you don't look like them, they not trying to save you. They not trying to help you. So
Okay. I mean, not to be the dead horse, but Larry, we need to ask you: is there really a difference between, Becky, who's hooked on that, versus Felicia? To talk about the two different movies characters. Of course, I'm just being goofy, but to ask you the question, is there really a difference between the two different addictions when it comes to it?
To answer, just be blunt about the answer. But that's America. I mean, shoot, I'm I'm a mental health counselor, not because people saw a need for mental health in the Black community. A lot of the institutions that have been created around us have been created for white people, and being a part of the American, being a part of America, we end up benefiting from it, but it has always been a side benefit. It has never been a direct benefit. When the needs in our community, specifically directed to us, have been clear and obvious with regards to even things like the Black Lives Matter movement, we are quick to be dismissed. So, unfortunately, being in the industry, I agree wholeheartedly with the previous comments. Unfortunately, we still exist in a white system, whereas in the need for things are always in relation to the empathy for the dominant community, the predominant community, which happens to be white. And in our needs, we end up having to fight doubly for, because there's not empathy. They tell us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, when it comes to our situations. But, there's a lot more empathy for white people. I think it was recently somebody was saying, with regards to, not to go too far from the tangent, but it's relation. We're talking about the overall system, right? They said if white children were being shot down, if white men were being shot down, this whole situation with regards to police reform, that had been done a long time ago. Okay. So, unfortunately, this is the system that we're under until we can continue to build a voice, not just with ourselves, but also with our white allies, which we need in order to be able to, create a more equitable community. I hate to use cliche words like that, but it's a jacked up circumstance, with regards to the lack of empathy in the Black community and how empathetic, but it is an issue of, where, unfortunately, if the majority of the society is white, and, there's always going to be this skewed tangent towards the dominant, the more prevalent, that it just is what it is. I hate to say it like that, we can change those things, but yeah. I don't have anything good to say about it other than what everybody else said, doubly so.
All right. I'm with you with that. Okay, so I'm gonna come back to you with this, Larry. I need to ask you, if we find that somebody is in a situation where they fall into addiction, and it's someone close to us, let's say somebody a part of the team or whatnot, how do we address that with them? What's the best way to address or intervene?
It depends on the severity of the circumstance. If you find someone with an addiction, it just depends on the severity of the circumstance. If you find somebody in heavy addiction, then a life-threatening situation, dial 911, call the police. I hate to say that, but I would rather call the police on a good friend and get them forced to be driven to the hospital than for a good friend of mine to OD because I did not intervene. Worst case scenario, get someone there. If they can't go, if they refuse to go there and you really care about them, get law enforcement involved and really try to buffer the situation. I'm not I'm not anti-law enforcement, but I'm definitely cautionary law enforcement. Proceed with caution. The secondary things are there are substance abuse. There are substance abuse there are specific substance abuse counseling programs where when a person gets involved and to get an assessment, that they can get involved in some pretty heavy, solid treatment. With regards to weekly counseling, weekly individual and group counseling, depending on where you're at. There's usually a set format, and that those are starting points. And obviously, if some, in the lightest circumstance, just get a mental, get them a mental health counselor, because there may be some underlying issues. There usually is, and that's a root thing that I think people fail to miss when they're talking about helping other people out as it relates to addiction, is the underlying mental health issues that people use, which sometimes is the main reason why people use drugs in the first place, whether it was spurred on by drugs or whether it happened before they started using drugs, but it's definitely there. And so, seek out mental health support. I mean, and see whether you can get some type of formal diagnosis, and have them sit down with somebody that can help them work through their life issues. That's not you. I mean, sometimes we think that we're the best support for the people that we care about, but sometimes people just need a neutral, mediated, non-interested, not somebody not directly connected to their circumstance, that's not intertwined. That's not going to tell all their business to somebody else. They just need that quiet observer that can just help them process their thoughts a little bit. And sometimes that's when you talk about something that's extremely effective. Of course, I'm in the profession, that promotes that. But hands down, I tell people all the time across the board, my job is to improve your emotional intelligence so that you are not bound. You don't feel bound by your emotions or bound to react to your body, that you can be able to use your head first and then your body and your emotions second. So anyways, yeah. So, three things, in extreme circumstance, call the cops. There are drug treatment centers there. Take them to the hospital. I forgot to mention that one. There are places. I'm not familiar with, depending on where you're located at, there's usually a place where they can, especially if it's a circumstance where they need to be monitored. There are places in our communities that can monitor the individual for 24 hours. But you'll be able to find that just by taking them straight to the hospital. And asking about that and getting directed to a secondary source. Again, substance abuse counseling centers are out there. And if they find out that their issue is severe, they can then recommend them to a higher level of care where the individual could be monitored for weeks at a time. Or, I think the maximum is 1 to 2 weeks they can be monitored. You can end up getting sort of transferred to a facility where they can sort of monitor you and sort of guide you through a rigorous program for 1 to 2 weeks, just depending on where you're located at. So anyways.
Okay.
Left on that.
Appreciate that. MP, I'm going to come back to you with a different question here. I want to know from you, it being that it is, 420, should marijuana be legalized at this point in the great state of Wisconsin?
I'm gonna say Wisconsin gonna be one of the last places to make it legal. I think it should be legal, and the reason why is because there are ways to control it without it being super policed, without it being disruptive and destructive to people. But people also have to realize that that with this responsibility, or with this comes responsibility. So with that, I mean, they just lessen the crimes here in Madison or in Wisconsin for it as well. Like if you being caught with it, so I feel like it's taking a step forward. Like Larry said, it's in the final stages of prohibition. Like it's coming. I just think Madison is going to be near the end, even though we're supposedly a blue state. But that's what I'll say on that.
Okay. Bang, I want to know from you. What do you feel like in 2021? It is 2021 at this time now. Do you feel
Right.
like marijuana should be legalized at this point in the state of Wisconsin, or everywhere? I guess at this point.
It should be, and it shouldn't have been illegal. Period. That's how I feel about it. Uh, and it's just crazy how in states where it is legal, you still can't even have a job. You test positive for THC. So that is just crazy to me. It has so many medical uses for it that it's still illegal. It's just crazy. And the only reason why it's illegal is because you got people out here getting a whole lot of bread. They getting that bag, selling that marijuana, and they ain't paying taxes on it. That's the only reason why it's illegal. And black people was getting a lot of bread, getting that bag back in the day, you know what I'm saying, and not paying taxes. And so that's why it's illegal. They want to continue to fill up these prison cells, you know what I'm saying, and make that money off people. And that's why it's illegal. But it for damn sure shouldn't be illegal. It's not immoral to use marijuana. You know what I'm saying? So one day it's probably coming, just like the rest of the panel said, it's probably coming that it will be legalized, throughout the entire nation. And I hope it is. I'm not a weed smoker, I'm a drinker, but yeah, it should most definitely be legal across the board.
Okay. One of many, I'm going to ask you, in 2021, do you feel like to legalize marijuana, does that help or hurt the black community?
All right, from a standpoint of just like making weed legal, I think I don't know. I'm on the fence about it for a lot of reasons because okay, what are the pros of making weed legal? Okay, I get to smoke my blunt walking down the street and don't feel like I gotta put it out if I see the police. That's one pro, right? But then like some of the cons is like now I have a track record every time I want to get high. You know what I mean? So it's like I just feel like them making weed legal is a way for them to just create another system for them to just keep tabs on they test dummies. So like I'm not for like legalizing weed for the reason that of taxation purposes. Like I'd rather go get my product from my homeboy down the street. So when I get it, it's done. It ain't no scanning my ID and making sure that you knew I was at this store buying this. It's like the whole system of just how it's coming. They just commercialize the experience of it. So like now to speak to like pros and cons of smoking weed, I feel like I'm way more sharper when I'm sober. My mind is ready. You know what I mean? I don't have really like a lot of glitches in my thoughts. You know what I mean? My memory is great. Like so, I see like certain little reasons why people would say weed shouldn't be allowed, but I mean, weed grow from the ground and cigarettes. I don't know where tobacco's coming. The alcohol is weird, but all these things are sold in stores at 18-year-olds and 21-year-olds. So it's just, I agree with Bang, man. It's more about like the image that was trying to be tainted of the black experience to me, because it's like when you think of weed, you don't think of no other race, and we probably not the biggest race to smoke weed, but it's just like in the culture of which the average black person is consumed to, it's like those are the influences. These are the cool factors. These are the narratives. So it's like if you could get past the smoke and the mirrors and see who really to point the finger at of why this is what it is and where it is, it goes back to the era of the crack industry. Like this is strategy. This is design. This is supposed to be this way. You know what I mean? Like not by our free will, by the people who are against us. Like we are a sworn enemy by people we keep trying to coincide with. So I agree with my brother, like Larry. Like we do need our I forget how he referenced the word, but like our white little allies. We do need them, but we don't need them in the front of our black organizations. They need to take a seat in the back, but still offer maximum effort. Because when we gather up our resources, make enough money to move in their community, we not pushed to the front to lead their community when we buy our $1 million house. But when they come and think they doing a good deed, they expect to be in the front and taking over our stuff. It's like, no, we really live here. We sleep here when you go home. You feel me? So it's like the whole issue is way deeper than we have time for. But it's just like I want to really like speak for the people that's not really going to watch this. But when we press share and tag people in there, it's like I understand, man. It's deeper than what the world is presented on the platter of race. It's like white, you got your image in your mind, and when you think of white, black, you got your image in your mind when you think of black, and it's attached to the things that we're talking about, like crime, drugs, and you know what I mean. So it's once you figure out who's dictating and who controlling our narratives, it's like okay, well you take a step back and you okay, it's not really our fault, but if we can get out the matrix with some of the solutions that like knowing what the problems are, it's like, all right, well, look, they kind of caught in the matrix. Let me figure out this little solution, So that's how I feel like. But as far as making weed legal, that's some corporate strategy stuff to just keep tabs on their test dummies.
Okay. I'm glad you said that because this leads into my final question for you guys. I'm gonna ask every last one of you guys the same exact question here, and that goes. I'm gonna start with you, one of many. I want to know if it is a situation where everything is kind of planned to agenda for us to be able to run that lane and fail. I want to ask, part of knowing better is to do better, right? So I want to ask, how do we prevent the youth from making the same mistakes of these past icons that I talked about, be it Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, Prince, whatnot, from making these same mistakes and dying from drug abuse and addiction?
Look, and there's no disrespect to the icons you just mentioned, but like that's the problem. Our icons are entertainers. You feel me? Like our icons are not well-known authors, published authors, and you know what I mean, doctors. We're not praising lawyers, we're praising generational failures. You feel me? Who continue to let us down. So like I would say start early. I'm not saying don't expose your children to music because I'm a musician. You feel me? But I would say start early with exposure. Like we just signed my daughter up for gymnastics. You know what I'm saying? Like of course they're gonna dance, they're gonna have a good time, but it's a different environment, it's a different exposure. It's not what you used to. But the earlier we can get exposed to different stuff, we'll be consumed to make better decisions. So we won't be consumed to our friends doing drugs or, you're going to see that regardless. But I'm just saying, it's like once you 18, 25, you kind of got your mind set on how this world is. You can't really try to put smoke and mirrors on their reality no more. But if they like 2, you can start early. Let's every night we're gonna read this book right here. And this book about somebody black excellent, somebody that look like you who doing well. And they not rapping or dribbling the basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like it's about exposing them to like, oh dang, okay, well, we do be doing this. I ain't just only seeing us success turn on BET. You know what I mean? So it's really on. It started in the house, but some people, and I'm not pointing the finger at people that don't do this. You know what I mean? Because I'm a firm believer in like it's people designed for us to like have to figure it out on our own. So when you do, you shouldn't look back on them like, man, you stupid, you don't get it. That's not the purpose of understanding and of the wisdom. It's like, okay, you're one of the rare few to be able to understand it for what it is. So those who you can capture, even if it's one person, job well done. Get them early.
Right. And shout out to our gymnast Simone Biles and all the other Dominique, all the other gymnasts, black gymnasts that have shown excellence over the years. We salute you as well. Okay, so MP, I'm coming to you with that same question. I want to know, to know better, we got to do better. If we know that this is a lick and that's a situation, that they setting us up to fail, how do we do better for our youth going forward?
I think right now is a very pivotal time. The best way is to be the example. Like I feel like right now in the position I am is that I have to show people, like show the younger generation, like, yeah, you can be whatever you want to be. You just got to stick your mind to it. Like, yeah, like one said, it's gonna be the drugs, it's gonna be the people that you see that every day who do hustle, who do this, that, and the other. But it's like that's not the only route. There's more than one route. Like I said, there's more than just dribbling a ball. There's more than just a microphone. But we also got to remember, like, even those people who you named that are iconic, like, they were people just like us, and they probably looked up to somebody else. And again, some of their stories are fatal because they got introduced to something that they didn't know about at that time as well. So I think that we just have to learn from history, because if we don't know history, then we'll never be able to go forward. Like history, if you don't pay attention to history, you're gonna be stuck forever. Like you can't grow because you'll think that your way is the right way, and pretty sure someone has already done it.
All right. Exactly. All right. We appreciate your thoughts on that as well, MP. Last but not least, we're leaving you, Bang, with the final word on it. You know, when we look at it, we look at the future going forward. You know, this is 2021. We're thinking down the road, 2031. You know, how are we going to be any better in this situation if, we talking about from the 80s, they had this thought to get us in the situation where we at right now. How do we as a people, as a community, turn that around to make it work for us? How do we do better?
I agree with the panel. Man, you got to start young. Start them young. You got to teach them better. You got to raise them better. You got to talk to them about things. You got to talk to them about life. You got to raise them. You got to raise them early, because the media and life and your neighborhood, they're going to raise your kids as well. So you got to keep it all the way 100 with your kids. You got to let them know what the real is. That's one big thing. Another thing is, once somebody get grown, they're gonna make the decisions that they're gonna make. So you can raise someone the right way and all that, and once they get grown, they might just want to experiment, saying on some things. So it's no way to just eliminate drug use or any of that. There's no way to just eliminate it, but there is a way to minimize it. You as a parent can also get your shit together as well. Because if you stand in the gutter, and you living your life a certain way, you kind of exposing your kid to that same lifestyle. So you got to get your shit together and get your life in order for you to teach, your kid to get his or her life in order as well. And I'm gonna also say, just because somebody in a public figure dies of a drug overdose, in a Black community, it doesn't mean that we as a Black community have a problem. I in my lifetime only know just a couple of people that really just had a drug issue. You know what I'm saying? So we talking about like 90, 98, 99% of people that I know ain't never even really had a drug problem. You know what I'm saying? So we can't let what we see on TV, dictate our perception of the whole entire, community. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, don't let them kind of cloud your judgment and what, what reality is as well. So it is tragic when somebody that we know has fallen, an icon, but when my life, is drug abuse is not really a horrible problem as far as the people that I know. So
okay, well, we appreciate your thoughts on that as well, Bang. We want to say rest in peace to the homie DMX. Rest in peace to the homie Black Rob, who just recently also passed. We want to share our thoughts next time, hopefully on the whole situation with Minnesota, but we're going to leave it at that today. But we want to thank all of you that tuned in. We got a lot of stuff going on today with the 420 celebration. I know Red MF is going on the other channel. You can tune into that as well. But we appreciate all of y'all that rock with us today. It's your boy Mizzle to the Jizzle. This is Radio 22's Talk 22. Until next time, y'all. Peace.
Hold on. I know next time. Hold on. We could afford 20. What you said? We could afford 20 on the show?
Celebrate the 420 on the show? Oh,
is that what you said?
That was anytime.
Oh,
this is celebration.
I ain't see
this
that.
Is celebration.
You was late.
You was being nice.
You was late. You was super late.
I was being nice. All right, y'all.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Talk up.